If you're just joining us, I am Laura from Front Office Rocks, and I am super excited to be here. I've been on Facebook a lot this week because we have so many exciting things going on at Front Office Rocks, not only online virtual training, but we have a big event next Friday. And I have been bringing on our sponsors, who I haven't seen in a really long time face to face, but I've been bringing them on virtually to just share with everybody following us why I love them and why you should be considering them or new things they have going on in your office. So today I have Samir from CareCredit. So Samir, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. I should come in like this.
I know, right? Now we'll all recognize each other better like this,
Yes.
right? And I
Yeah.
have to say, typically I have a really cool virtual background, but today things aren't going well. So my camera's not working. So you're seeing my house, you're seeing Samir's house, kind of the life
Yeah.
of
This
this.
is real. This is
Exactly,
real.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, the New Patient Accelerator is our event next Friday. And what I focus on at the New Patient Accelerator is telephones, customer service, reactivation, keeping the patients, getting the patients in. And a lot of offices right now are busy. We've gotten opened again, patients are coming back, but there's a lot going on. There's a lot of stuff that we've put to the side and we've just kind of had to deal with. And then there's a lot of stuff we should be focusing on because we're about to come into a really slow time in our industry, which we can talk about. So Samir, first of all, if somebody lived under a rock and doesn't know what CareCredit is, can you tell us just a little bit about CareCredit and anything that you want to let us know before we kind of get into our conversation about offices?
Absolutely. My pleasure. So CareCredit is a healthcare credit card. In a nutshell, it allows the patient to get the treatment, elective treatment, whether it be dentistry, veterinarian, plastic, cosmetic, allows them to get it to be able to pay over a period of time because I don't know about you, Laura, because I do not wake up in the morning thinking I'm going to be spending X amount of dollars at a dental office today. So, and in medical emergencies, they come as they come, so it gives our patients an opportunity to be able to not compromise or sacrifice their health because of financing or because of funding or because of life expenses. I mean, if it's something is always happening. I know. I mean, I don't have any kids, but if you have kids, there's a whole lot more things happening. So CareCredit Healthcare. I mean, it's a healthcare credit card. It allows the patients to get the treatment they want and spread the payments over the period of time on a promotional financing. And for, of course, the doctors and their teams, it allows them to recommend the care that the patient should get, needs to get, without having to prioritizing saying, okay, let's only do this now, we'll do this later on. And in this current environment, it even more so is so important that let's try and get what we can do instead of having to come back and forth. So in a nutshell, that's what it is.
Now, I like to talk about a lot of times when I'm speaking about we live in a dental box, we wear our dental hats, but let's take our dental hat off for a moment and put our business hat on. Think about all of the places that financing is an option. Think about all of the ways. I mean, every piece of furniture behind me when I bought this house, I could have paid for. I had room on my credit card. I could have paid for it, but they offered me 12 months interest-free financing. I took advantage of that. Like as a customer, that is just an amazing piece of customer service. And I'm assuming, Samir, that's what you see and patients value when the offices offer that.
Absolutely. I mean, here's the thing. I mean, we've been in this profession, at least for dentistry, for the last 30 plus years. And one of the biggest reasons we've had the long run we've had is because there's a huge need. I think a lot of the times, at least in my experience, I was a rep and then I was a manager over Texas. In my experience, what I would find, we put our own limitations or our own views on somebody else. Like, oh, if I can't afford a $20,000, then they can't either. Or if I'm not going to get approved, then they can't either. I mean, so there is a lot of that I used to see. So, but historically, and everybody, and I know you said that, I have done it many a times, it's patients and consumers are looking for, I mean, we live in a society where we want what we want when we want it.
Exactly.
And dentistry, especially, I have always said it's selective unless you make it attractive. Yes,
Right.
especially when it's not broken or bleeding or hurting. For the most part, if you want, so that's how consumers and patients think. They're like, and here's the thing, I do believe that they want to get the work done, but like I said, nobody has saves up to where you say, I'm going to pay cash. I'm not saying they don't exist. I'm sure they do. Just like there are people who will pay cash for everything and anything. And
Right.
that's great. But the vast majority of the consumers and the patients, whether it be on the healthcare side or on the commercial side, like, you know, buying sofas or financing cars, I mean, that's what they are used to, is that monthly payment. That's how we budget things. That's how it's, I can't tell you like, okay, would I want to do a $10,000 treatment or $15,000 sofa, but I do know I can fit $200, $500, whatever that may be, into my monthly budget. And that's how, you know, good, bad, or indifferent, however your view is on financing, that's what most patients and people think. So, and I'm sure when you went and bought that sofa, it was not when you were walking out in the parking lot that somebody ran out and says, "Oh, by the way, Laura,
Right.
if you want, we can also do it." I mean, it's all upfront. It's
Right.
giving you the option. It's giving you the choice because you're a smart consumer. You will tell me what works best for you.
Right.
If you are about something about points and you get it on your credit cards, then you will say, you know what, I have it. I would rather do that because I'm so close to my, you know, I'm going to be a million
Right.
miler for the rest of my life kind of a thing. So everybody has that, but I think the biggest thing that we can take away and from any of those examples is having that conversation upfront, having that conversation consistently, and giving the patience. So, but that's how businesses work. I mean, we are all trained to think that way.
Right. And you and I, you're preaching to the choir here. So there's a whole bunch of things that I love about what you just said. So first of all, I remembered prior to dentistry. I mean, there was a life before we were all in dentistry, and we kind of forget about that. I remember prior to dentistry in college and coming out of college, going to the dentist, and it was 1 crown here. And then the next time I went, it was another crown here. And then the next time it was a filling over here. And I'm like, I'm doing all the home care. Well, now that I'm in this, and now that I'm working with dentists so much, it wasn't that I didn't have that need. I think it was they only could sell me, they could only help me get one thing at a time. That's what my insurance covered. That, well, with CareCredit and having options for patients, to be able to show the patient your full treatment plan, this is
Yeah.
what you need, right? And then we can help you with how are you going to pay for it. It just gives the patient a sense of security. Talk about amazing customer service, right? To be able to tell them everything that they need.
Yeah, and I love what you said about customer service because I think a lot of the times what I find that people take customer service as, do I have a nice coffee machine and a personal labeled water and a nice sofa as customer? I mean, customer service to a consumer, it starts from the time I call and set up an appointment to all the steps in between and
Mhm.
until I check out. And that
Mhm.
includes having conversation about finances because what good is the beautiful office and the fantastic front desk team and the phenomenal doctor and the clinical team, but when it comes to money, you're like, "Hmm, I'll I'll let you figure it out." I
Yeah.
mean, everything was going great until it wasn't. And yes, the patient you may not think a patient is thinking that way, but to me, that's what a whole complete experience is. I mean, going to a restaurant, you just don't say, I'm just going to get for good food. I mean, you look for ambiance, the customer service, how it's talk. I mean, just all of it. So
Yeah.
it's not, I'm not saying that it's exactly the same thing, but for an experience to be an experience, you can't pick and choose of what makes experience. It's cumulative effect.
Right.
So
And there's a comfort level. I did actually, anybody involved with the New Patient Accelerator and my future events, I did a 3 hour, I think, or interview about this with CareCredit about case acceptance starts before the first phone call, before it even, I mean, the
yeah,
confidence of your team. Like an example for me is when I hear team members all the time say to me, well, we don't have payment options. Patients say, don't have payment options? Yeah, you do. If you have CareCredit, you have payment options, right? It's not in office payment. And there's a whole reason why we don't want that. But
yeah,
you do have payment options. And to have your team have that comfort level to say, we completely have payment options, right? That's
yeah,
what patients want to know because our patients think we're going to knock them out. It's going to be $5,000 and they can't afford that. When really, when they say I can't afford that, they're just saying I don't have money on my credit card right now, or I don't have my checkbook right now. They're not saying they can't afford 350 a month or 500 a month.
yeah. And they're not saying that they don't value the treatment that you recommended. They do. And like I said in the beginning, I do believe patients, and if I am informed and given, I want to be an informed consumer. I think that's what everybody looks at. Like, give me the information,
Mm-hmm.
let me digest it, help me process some of that, because I am pretty overwhelmed right now. I was not expecting this much treatment.
Right.
You mentioned my benefits or my insurance are not going to cover. You were saying it's something that needs to be taken care of pretty soon. All right, then don't stop there. Then help me. How can I get there?
Exactly.
I have, if it's not back to school, then it's Thanksgiving, then it's Christmas, then it's spring break, then there are life expenses. And now coming back from COVID, a lot of people have their life expenses have been on hold.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, the schools may not be open, and some, depending on where you're at, there will always be something. So again, I always call it, make it upfront, make it consistent. And I think the other part is when it becomes part of what I do on a daily basis, it doesn't feel like I'm trying to push or sell it. That's my job.
Right. Yeah.
It's like you say, when a new dental assistant, when she or he tries to set up the room for the first time, it doesn't come, but the more you do it, the easier it becomes, and it's not an extra effort. And we all pick up on that. It's like, are you comfortable in what you're recommending? Are you comfortable in what I should be accepting? Then
Right.
your team should be just as confident in mentioning that and supporting that, and not
Right.
just saying, okay, we can do all this, but everything else you need to figure it out.
Right. And that's where I think, and I'm just kind of generalizing here, but I think dentists, you're comfortable in the clinical skills. You're comfortable in putting a treatment plan together. But I've seen this happen. I mean, we had it with an associate in our office. As soon as the patient says how much, they were like the roadrunner, me, 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 and Sally from the front desk comes in. There's a whole bunch of things there that are a problem. Like, first of all, you need to be comfortable in being able to talk about your fees. And then you also need to be comfortable in having options and being able to have that conversation. And so does Sally at the front desk. I mean, she needs to have that. And Samir, you and I talk about the treatment plan form where I suggest, based off of what you've suggested, which has helped a ton of offices, bring it in for anything $500 or more. Give them options, because your team is nervous. It's 5,000 to whatever their threshold is of nervousness. Allow the patient to see your options. And like Samir said, they may not pick CareCredit. That's okay. They might put it on their credit card, but at least they know you're comfortable in talking about it and they're confident in the options.
And that's where it all kind of comes to full end, because I know offices don't do it intentionally, but I want you to just feel what that conversation is like. Hey, Laura, your treatment today is going to be 5,000 and your benefits or your insurance will cover 1,500. Your portion is 3,500. How would you like to pay? Oh, we also offer 5% courtesy adjustment. Well, I mean, we also have credit cards that you can put it on. Do you see? I mean, it just kind of, I had somebody ask me, one of the doctors actually mentioned it to me as when I was a rep. He said, I never paid attention. And we've always discussed the trust factor from a patient, because the patient thinks that, we are out there to make all this money and recommend unnecessary treatment. But it makes sense as to why they would think that, because what is happening to the trust if I'm only giving piece information? Then I'm thinking as a patient, is like, okay, so what else have you not told me?
Right.
And so why not just be confident, be upfront, and you know what? Not everybody's going to say yes.
Right.
But not everybody's going to say no either.
Right.
But once I have the choices, at least now I can make an intelligent decision. So,
and that is where I say case acceptance. And again, we're going to be talking about new patients and getting our patients back in the practice. But when I talk about case acceptance, starts before the first phone call. That's the full circle of the reviews. So when a patient comes to your office and then they love you and they get the dentistry done, what they say online is the impression the patients have before they come to you. So if they look at a review online and they say, the review is, they were amazing, they gave me payment options, I got my smile taken care of, their customer service was awesome, a patient's going to come to you with that expectation, versus this office only did what the insurance covered, they gave me a good discount, they gave my mom a good discount, I highly recommend them. Well, that patient's going to call, and guess what? They're looking for a good discount, right? Because that's what they saw. So having this this whole full circle of understanding the confidence of talking about money and the
Yeah,
confidence of having options for the patient is huge for the entire customer service experience for your patients.
absolutely. 100%. Yeah.
So Samir, CareCredit's been around way longer than me in dentistry. Like I worked with CareCredit when I first got into dentistry. It was like, here's your dental codes, here's your financing options, and here's how you verify benefits. You're
Yeah.
good, go, right? Um, I've seen a lot of changes over the years. And one of the things that I was guilty of early on, and you and I had conversations about this, is I would only go to CareCredit. Like I would only consider CareCredit, like you mentioned, and bring my patients that say, I have no money, I don't have good credit, I can't afford this. And so then we would sit over here and go, well, CareCredit doesn't approve everybody. I have changed my philosophy and I teach this now with you, but I want to just have you speak about that. Like we've kind of mentioned it, but offering it across the board as an option, not just as a last ditch effort. And can you talk about that a little bit and how you guys are helping offices with that?
Yes. It kind of goes back to having those systems, the consistency, and that process is in place. And so once you have that, it's like I said, not everybody's going to accept, and not everybody's going to elect that option. But now it's easier. So I always say when I take a look at a practice and I'm talking to them, in my mind, I ask myself, are they using CareCredit as part of their process, or are they using it as a product? So the product is literally just that, what you mentioned earlier, like, okay, I'm going to use it when it's needed. When it's part of the process is, again, being upfront and consistent and discussing about it. So I think I may have lost the question that you were asking about.
No, it's just a matter of not just doing it when the patient
Not,
says, I don't have credit. Because
yeah, I'm sure it's for you. I know it's definitely for me. I would not like if somebody tried to make assumptions on what I can and cannot afford.
Mm-hmm.
Good, bad, I don't know. It's not something that I would appreciate.
Mm-hmm.
And so we all know, don't judge the book by its cover, but let's be honest, we still do.
Mm-hmm.
But I think acknowledging that and recognizing that and now presenting it in a way that say, you know what, I am going to do what I can do best.
Mm-hmm.
See, I can't change what your financial situation is. I can't change what you have going on in your personal life, but what I can do is load you up with information so that you may just surprise me and say, oh, I would like to take this option or that option, or I would like to. You don't want to be that menu option at a restaurant. I'll only do this and not that.
Yep.
Just show me the whole. So it's the same thing. It's one thing, and in order to assist that, because it's easier. Again, I can say it. I think everybody watching probably understands that and knows that is the right thing to do. We've actually developed tools and resources to assist with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's where it is visual. It is something that a patient, because they're overwhelmed, how can we calm those nerves, kind of make it easier for them to see what we're talking about? Mm-hmm. So there are tools and resources. My team, even though they're not calling in person, they are doing what we're doing right now. They would love to kind of walk you through what those tools and resources are to still not sacrifice or compromise the experience of a patient and yet have a very productive conversation. So how can we do that? Yeah.
And I think there's three parts, which we've talked about, but just to kind of tie it all together, the tools and resources, the process, it needs to be part of your process. It needs to be part of it. And then the training, which is where I focus at Front Office Rex. It sounds good to say to your team members, always offer care, always offer financing options. It sounds good. And the team goes like this. And then they go into the consultation room and they face the patient and they're like, because the patient says, I don't have any money. And they're just as nervous as you are. You've got to role play. You've got to practice with your team so that they're comfortable with this. Because I think that's the biggest issue is, we are so used to saying, and it'll be $3,500. How do you want to take care of it? And the patient says, I don't have that kind of money. And we go, okay, we'll put a watch on it and we'll see you in 6 months, right? We don't know what to do after that. So you definitely have to train your team on that.
We turn into Weight Watchers. We'll wait and watch.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what that will do, but in giving benefit of the doubt to the teams as well, doctors get their CE courses all over the place. Hygienists get theirs, dental assistants get their. Where are the business people going to get their additional training?
Hopefully us, right?
Yeah. So, and that is a critical component of it, is not talking about money and discussing finances. discussing treatment and comprehensive treatment is not everybody's cup of tea. Not that people are not capable of doing it. I think if you provide enough tools and support structure around it, we can. And that's where you and my team comes into play is how can we help you? We understand this is not something you went to school or have a training in, but we can do it and I can help you get there. So just being open. And I love the idea of doing role plays. It's I know I'm sales, so we do it all the time. My team still doesn't like it, but guess what? It's something, it's critical, it's important why we still do it, because I would rather fumble in front of somebody that I know versus when it actually counts. And will it happen? Yes, possibly it would still happen, but then we kind of find what works for my personality versus what works for yours.
Exactly. And that's the thing is scripts don't necessarily work. We can give guidelines. We could say, here are some options of what you could say. This is our policy. You know, you can't go off the policy, but you have to say it from the heart. Otherwise the patient, just like you said, is like, I don't know if I trust this person. Same with answering phones. I mean, do you take my insurance? Do you, and we get so frustrated when patients call on how much is this? And do you have payment options? And do you take my insurance? We assume that everybody's worried about money. It's not necessarily that. It's that they don't know to ask anything else. They don't know. They should be saying, how good is your dentist? And how much CE have they taken this year? They just don't know to do that. So we have to, like you said, train the team members from the heart how to handle those questions, because they're not going to stop.
No, they're not. And it's the same thing for you. Instead of discussing, okay, you know, we take this insurance. I'm not saying not to discuss it. Yes, it is. If that's what the patient is asking, you should address it. But you also want to put your doctor on the pedestal as to why it is that we charge, why it is that we do what we do and how we do it. It's because of him or it's because of her. And we would love for you to have a dental home that we would love to come and have you come and see. Otherwise, like you said, on the phone, I'm just going through a list of doctors. So if it's all the same, the moment somebody sounds a little different, like, you have my attention. And that's where the experience starts. Otherwise, it's to them, it's like, oh, you know, you went to a dental school and he went to a dental school, then it's the same.
Exactly. And so I hope during everything that's gone over the last few months that we've all learned, that we've all grown, that we've all, I mean, I've learned that I actually like to read books. I traveled so much before I never read. I'm actually reading now. I hope you've picked up a hobby. I hope you've learned and taken a lot of training and CE. The thing I want to mention here is that you can teach an old dog new tricks. You need to invest in your team. So you might have somebody who's worked for you for 10 years answering phones. That doesn't mean they still don't need training. That doesn't mean we shouldn't invest in them. We need to, I mean, we get beat up all day long, especially right now, you know, patients upset about masks and the check-in policy and all that. You have to invest in your team emotionally, that you support them. And then the second thing is you need to get, even if you have CareCredit, you probably don't know the latest of what's going on with CareCredit. You probably haven't had your rep in to help work through some of these verbal skills. You haven't had your team talk to them. So make sure that you stay connected with what's latest and greatest with the companies that you work with too. Samira, I would assume that your reps are seeing this where they can go in and help offices every day, right?
That is what we love doing. You know, because for us, there's only two kinds of dental offices, ones who have CareCredit and ones who don't. And it's not like, okay, are you gold tier or platinum tier? It's like one or the other. And we love supporting the ones who are already in our network. And we love having people come join our network and to be part of our networks. But yet that's what they do. My team is there to help figure out what those financial policies should look like, what those documents, what the best practices look like, the educators that we work with, like yourself, the expert tips. It's not just, okay, I know how to do the application, I know how to do the transaction. There's a whole lot more. I mean, we are pretty grateful and to work in a profession where we have fantastic partners who have given us wealth of information. My reps have that, and they want to share that. They want to give that to, and guess what? It's free of cost. So. Yeah, you know, and the tools and resources, we're constantly working on making things easier, making things faster without compromising the experience, you know, whether it be applying using a QR code or a custom application link or what are some of the best practices or tips or white paper
Right.
That's what they do. And yes, they are not doing it in person, but they can still do that virtually via Zoom, WebEx, whatever that may be,
Right.
and still fit into your schedule for what you are looking for to do.
It's a new virtual world, everybody. This is what we're doing. Dentistry has to catch up, right? So Samir, I have to, before I have any final thoughts from you, I have to tell you, if you haven't noticed, I got married. So my name is new Nelson, right? So I have this.
Congratulations, yes.
Thank you for a while. And my poor husband, it's weird to say that now, but my poor husband for years has been going to a dentist. I don't think I would necessarily recommend. I don't know the dentist, but it wasn't of my favorite. Well, now he marries into dentistry. And next thing you know, implant later, a crown later, abutment later, another crown, another tooth falls off. I mean, and CareCredit has saved the day for him. So just not only is he good to go, healthy and ready, right, and representing me at events, but yeah, I was like, I just know what we need to do about this. So
that is awesome. Well,
I feel bad.
Congratulations, and thank you for taking us on the journey in your new chapter of your life.
Well, I will tell you, it's funny because you'll be mad at me. I didn't say to him, go to apply to, I said, go to this dentist I recommend, let's see what happens. He came home with CareCredit done from them. They did it. He goes, did you know I could do? And I'm like, I did.
As it happens, I do.
Funny you said that. So any other thoughts anybody questions, anything you want to close up with?
No, I mean, I'm sure there's like tons of questions which we usually hear about our fees and the approvals and everything else. And I want to say, give us a call, contact your rep. You can contact me, it's sbasine@carecredit.com, and I'd be happy to connect you. But it's with everything going on, with us trying to get back and taking care of the patients that I love the profession that we serve.
Mm-hmm.
I want to thank everybody who's out there and doing it day in, day out and going through the PPEs and everything else. So I appreciate that. Thank you. But it's the same thing. If we can do, and I know we can help in being more productive, helping more patients and helping your team. So it's a win-win-win. So call and say, you know what, here's where we are at. This is what I want to do. How can you help me grow my business? How can you help me help more patients? Hopefully we have a solution. Most of the times we do. If we don't, we will at least say, here are some of the other resources that you may want to because of the level where you are at. So no, thank you for the opportunity to come on. And I know it's been a very long time, and it looks like it's going to be a few more time before we see each other. But I'm glad we get to be part of the solution. If patient financing was important before, it even more so now. And so call your reps and figure out, and let's help you get the resources and tools that you need to kind of get back on track and kind of expedite that process to shorten that curve.
Sure. And to have that next level for your patients. That's what that's the thing, is we need to have that. We can't just say, okay, well, put a watch on it and let them go. So I'm going to end on a final little story I just thought about. Samir knows this story, but I was going to mention that all the reps I've met in the field, because I've been out on the road when we could, and I've met CareCredit reps all around the country, and CareCredit's been gracious to sponsor a lot of times book signings. And I was speaking in, I don't remember, Iowa or something. And one of the things I teach about answering phones is when a patient asks a question, you always say something yes or something positive. So you always want to take control of the call. So we role played and we practiced, and I had a room full of people, yes, we could practice saying yes, whatever. So CareCredit had a book signing for me. It was our first time doing it. And I said, meet me, everybody, when this session's over at the CareCredit booth, and I will sign books. There's 50 books sponsored by CareCredit. So I take my time and grab my bag and head over. And there's about 40 women standing over this poor guy at the table. And he looks up and they're like, we're here for the book. And he's like, what book? And because the shipping lost the books in the way, and they said, Laura's book. We just saw Laura speak, Laura's book. And he's like, who's Laura? Because he hadn't met me yet, right? And I walk up and I hear one of the ladies saying to him, Laura taught us you should always say yes. Where are my books? And this poor guy is just like, I don't even know who this is. And why are 50 women standing in front of me telling me to say yes? Luckily, we shipped all the books to the people and it worked out great. But he was such a good sport and I felt so bad for him.
So I'm so glad at least had a happy ending. That would have been pretty bad. So appreciate you sharing that. But yes, we love that is the part of my job, and that's part of what we do is to learn this way and to to increase our knowledge. So I appreciate you
It's
giving
about
us the
giving
opportunity.
back. Yep.
Yeah.
So awesome. Okay, great. So if you haven't signed up for New Patient Accelerator, it's next Friday. You need to be there. It's going to be amazing. If you're already watching this because you're part of the program, you have contacts to everyone at CareCredit, get your rep in there. If you're watching this live on Facebook, join us and then get your rep in to see what's the latest and greatest with CareCredit. And Samir, I will see you, sounds like maybe virtually between now and then, but 2021, I'll give you a hug.
Yes. Looking
All right.
forward to it. Thank you,
Awesome.
Candice. Okay.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Have an amazing day.